Hey, what's going on, everyone? Shabbat Shalom. This is Servant RD. Kohaya, Kingdom of Heaven is at hand. Here with another video, and it's entitled "The People of Darkness Are Wiser Than the People of Light." Yeah, my scripture text will be taken from Luke 16:8. It talks about a man that worked for an employer, and this individual, he squandered his employer's money, and he was about to lose his job. And he thought to himself, he said, man, I'm about to lose my job. What I'm going to do? I'm too old and I'm not strong enough to dig in the earth, digging ditches. And I'm too ashamed to beg. So what should I do? How will I protect my livelihood? He said, you know what? I know what I do. I call all these individuals that owe my employer money. Now I deal wisely with them because they've been owing him this money for a long time. If I can, kind of make amends in somehow, some way, maybe that would preserve my job. So he called one man. He said, how much do you owe my boss? He said, I owe him 800. He said, okay, tear that bill up and write out a check for 400. He was like, cool. He wrote out the check for 400. And then he talked to another man. He said, how much do you owe my boss? He said, well, I owe him 1,000 bushels of substance. And he said, okay, just bring 800 and you'll be cool. And he like, oh, cool. And so he brought all that substance and brought it to his boss. And surprisingly, the boss was like, man, you dealt wisely. You got me something, So after all, you squandered some of my money, but you redeemed yourself. You brought me some ends. You brought me some dividends. And so Yahshua told this story. It's found in Luke 16:8. And that's what I want to go down to verse 8 and, point that out. I just gave you a brief synopsis of the story. In the King James Version, the 8th verse of the 16th chapter of Luke, it said, and the Lord commanded the unjust steward, the one that squandered the money, because he had done wisely. For the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. And that's what I want to bring out. That man that squandered his employer's money, he denotes the children of darkness. And the children of darkness, they have went through the Father's resources. And so what they doing now, they are trying to do their bidding in order to maintain and last a little bit longer, as we see this whole kingdom crumbling, as we see since 2019 all the things that have happened. We all understand the pandemic took place and it just shut everything down. Even today, churches, they still suffering. They still trying to gather. It's been 2 years and churches are still struggling. I was looking at TD Jakes in the Potter House, and I see how he making moves and he making transitions because things are not the same. They trying to preserve themselves, but things are crumbling. We see uncontrolled fires all over the place that burned up a lot of areas, a lot of trees and shrubbery. And we understand flooding has plagued the land. We here in St. Louis, we dealt with all types of flooding and all types of the people that lost their livelihood, lost their belongings and their possessions, and they were waiting on government assistance. We see down there in Florida how the hurricane hit, people down there are in desolation. Rich people in their yachts are piled up on top of one another. We see all type of disasters, and we see that the scripture in Romans where it says that the earth is groaning, and it's groaning for the manifestations of the Son of the Most High. All these things that's taking place. We must understand, us who are children of the light must understand what's going on. Even the London Bridge, how it has fallen. The pound is losing its value. All the nations that are part of its commonwealth, they wanting to exit out from up under that control. We see that all types of disturbances and chaos and the shaking and the disturbances and and as it says in Luke, distress of nations, how it's occurring right before our eyes, where the children of darkness, they understand what's going on, and what they doing, they trying to buy themselves more time, and what they are targeting the children of light. They want us to be in disarray. They want us to be in confusion. They want us to be in chaos. They want us to be in a chaotic form of existence, to where we are not in tune with what the Father is doing, and that we are not in tune and getting on code with what the Father is doing in this time. That's what the children of darkness, the people of darkness, that's what they are doing. And they are shrewd at it. They are very cunning at it. And they are successful because they are wiser, they're more cunning, and they are more subtle. And they dealing with the children of light in a subtle fashion. And we must understand what Yahshua said in that scripture, where he said the children of darkness are wiser than the people of light. We must understand why Yahshua said that. He said that for us to begin to be enlightened with what's going on and get on code with the Most High. One way we can get on code is to obey his word. We must understand that we must have things in order. Just look at 1 Corinthians 14 and 33. It says, for Yah is not of Elohim of disorder. That's the Berean Standard Bible, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints. The saints are the chosen. The saints are the elect. The saints are people whom have a covenant with the Most High. Let me look at the King James Version. It says, for our sovereign one is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the assemblies, in all the churches of the saints, of the Hebrew Israelites, of the people of light. The saints are the people of light. One thing we must understand, that if there is any confusion, then it's not of the Most High. If it's not of the Most High and we engaged in the confusion, then guess what? We are off code. We are not codifying with the Most High. But let us move on. When you look at 1 Corinthians in the same chapter, 14th chapter, and verse 40, it reads, but let all things be done decently and in order. The Most High is of order. He's not of confusion. We just read that. I often think about in the book of Numbers, how even in the book of Exodus, how the children of Israel, our grandpappies and our grandmammies, how they came out of Egypt and they was in Mount Sinai. And once the Father drowned Pharaoh's army, and once the Father had rid them of their oppressors, Miriam, she got a timbrel and she began to start playing the tambourine, and they started to rejoice and they started to dance. The Father, he didn't stop it. He let them do it. But the time came when the Father came and told Moses, okay, let's get down to business. Let's start setting things in order. The first thing I want to give you are these commandments, and I want to give you these judgments. Then I want to start setting things in array, begin to put things in its proper place. You understand? Because that's our Father. He's not of confusion. He's of peace. Next thing you know, after the commandments were given and the judgments and the statutes, next thing you know, the Most High had Moses and gave him the instructions on how to build the tabernacle, to place things in order, how to worship the Father, how to commune with him. The Father is about order. And this is something that the children of darkness realize. They understand that the Father is of order. What they want to do, they want his children, his covenant people, to be out of order, because they know once we get in order, once we get on code And once we codify and come together under the rule of the Most High, they understand that once that happens, judgment will come on them. So they're trying to buy themselves some time. They're trying to kind of keep things in disarray. And so perhaps if they continue to do that, then that would spur them of the judgment that is inevitable. And many times you have people, in many cases, they want to extend. If there's somebody on death row and he's about to be executed, and they give him a stay of execution, and he may be like, okay, he trying his best to get off death row. He trying his best to extend the time and, find a pardon somewhere. And it's the same with the children of darkness, because the children of darkness represent the deceiver, and the deceiver represents Satan, Ha-Shaitan, the accuser. When he accuse us, what he's doing, he's trying to bring a case against us so that he can buy himself time and buy himself a little clemency, if you will. But we must understand that order must be. So you have the children of darkness. Their job is to keep us out of order, and our job is to get in order and to codify. And that's very apropos to what's going on. And so we must understand that there's an order that the Father has established for his people, which is called the church. His people are called the called out ones. His people who are called the Israelites. His people that he made a covenant with back in Exodus 19th chapter. And the people that he punished. And the people that he promised that he will restore. And so when he restore, he's going to restore us back to order. You understand what I'm saying? When you look at Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 11th chapter, in the 3rd verse, Paul made a profound statement. And he said, but I would have you to know that the head of every man is the Messiah or Christ. That's the order. And then he goes on to say, and the head of the woman is the man. The head of the woman is the man. And then the head of the Messiah, the head of Christ, is the Most High. In the King James Version, it say God. But the head of Christ, the head of the Messiah, is Yahweh. That is the order. Now, we just read where he said, let everything be done decently in order. And then he said, Yahweh is not the author of confusion, but of peace. Confusion is the opposite of order. Chaos. The confusion and chaos is the opposite of order. And so we must understand. Then when you look at 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter in the 7th verse, it talks about how husband and wives are to function. They say, likewise, ye husband, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, as being heirs together of grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. They call the wife, the woman, the weaker vessel. And so this is how the Father arranged it. He got an order, and he's not going to deviate from it. I know a lot of people think that he may try to alter different things. The Father may alter different things, but that's not so. The Father has an order, and he stick to the order. Now look at the prophecy of Isaiah, the 3rd chapter and the 12th verse. Isaiah, he prophesied. He said, as for my people, he's speaking on the behalf of the Most High. The Most High called us his people. He say, as for my people, children are their oppressors. Man, we all know that our young ones, they gone crazy. They wilding out in the streets. They shooting up everything. They just doing all kinds of chaotic. They engaged in all kind of chaotic behavior, all kinds of confusion. We know that's not of the Most High, because he's not the author. He does not initiate that type of confusion. But our children, our young people, they out there and, they shooting up. They a whole lot of home invasions, and they going to restaurants shooting people. They tricking people, finessing people. And you just got all kinds of wildness and all kind of crazy behavior that's going on amongst the people of the Most High. And we must talk about it. We must tell you about it, because the Father is going to allow a catastrophic event to occur to put us back in order. Because the Father's order going to commence, whether we believe it or not, whether we want to or not. It doesn't matter if we having a good time and all this chaos that's going on. He's going to put things in order. But in the meantime, in between time, the people of darkness, they are propelling, they perpetrating this chaos because they want it to be so, because it buys them a little bit more time. But look at it and say, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, those who lead you cause you to err, and destroy the way of your paths. When you listen to and when you adhere to their sentiments, they're leading you, and they're leading you astray. What am I getting at? I said all that to say that we, as the people of light, we must understand, if we continue to rely on the children or the people of darkness, we will continue to be finessed. If we rely on the children or the people of darkness, we will continue to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. What am I talking about? I mentioned the order that Paul so profoundly laid out before us. I mentioned that for a purpose. This movie that's out, this Woman King, it's an edict that was ordered straight from Satan, Hashatan, the deceiver, to once again throw things out of order. We must understand, like it says in Corinthians, the Messiah is head of man, and man is head of the woman. That's confusion. Woman, king. A king denotes a man, but it talks about a woman. That's confusion. And you see people that's in these Christian churches, they just complimenting this movie. Oh, this is such a good movie. Oh, this is a great movie. And so you have the children of darkness continuing to pull the wool over the children of light eyes. When you talk about pulling the wool over someone's eyes, this saying goes all the way back to the 1600s and in the 1700s, when the English people would wear wigs and all that stuff because they had lice, and they would cut their hair off and wear wigs. And if you had a shrewd lawyer that was pleading a case for an individual, if the lawyer was shrewd enough with his lies and with his deception, they would label it as that lawyer pulled the wool or pulled this wig over our eyes where we really couldn't see the truth and make a righteous assessment. And that's what's going on now. You have the medium, this medium that's working alongside with all other orders that's been established in this established order, which I brought out in the message of, resistance and in the message of submission. There's an established order that has an agenda, and that agenda is to stifle the progress of the Most High's children, to continue to pull the wool over our eyes, to continue to finesse and trick the people who's supposed to be in order with the Most High. And they doing it with this medium that they use called motion picture. They got us in disarray. I look at Facebook and I see how the men and women are at odds. Guess what? The people of darkness initiated that. The people of darkness, they are laughing their tails off. They're having the time of their lives. Why? Because they are buying themselves a little bit more time to function as leaders of this society. They understand once we get on code, their demise will come quickly and swiftly. So what they decide to do is to keep us from getting in order and in alignment with the Most High. And so we as a people, we continue to get flim-flammed by the children of darkness. Their job is to distract us, keep us off course. How is it that they can keep us off course? To continue to cause us to be fallen for the deception, fallen for things that's out of order. Woman King, you got this woman running around slamming men. You got this a platoon of women taking men out, taking everybody out. But then you look, and this movie, it doesn't make sense, because you got this woman taking their own people out in their own tribe, and then when they get back to their region, the colonizers, the white colonizers, they do nothing to them. As a matter of fact, they selling the Hebrew Israelites. They not selling their own people. They sold the Hebrew Israelites to the colonizers. Then after the colonizers were able to get a successful slave trade, then they turned around and colonized the Dahomey tribe and broke them down. The truth of the matter is that the Dahomey tribe, they sold us out. And the Hollywood movie makers and the filmmakers, they twisted it, and they got people that sold us out, and they got us rejoicing over those same people that sold us out. It's crazy. That's confusion. The Father is not the author of it. I'm really focusing on this movie because it needs to be pointed out, because major deception is going on, and it's causing one end of the spectrum to fight against the other. You got all these women fighting these men and tearing them up. If they were that powerful, why ain't they up there in Ukraine? How come the sisterhood won't get Brittany Griner out? If that's the case, go on up there to Russia and use that Woman King power and get them out. It's a delusion. It's time for us to get up off of all this nonsense and get on code with the Most High. They know they ain't that powerful. They just want to control the man, just like it says in Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, and the 12th verse. Women rule over them. And it says that we are being led astray. We are being led in error. We are in error when we allow these things to be so. When we understand the order. In the church, you have bishops. You have women calling themselves bishops. You have women preaching. I was discussing this with a pastor when I was in the church one time, and my wife, she was kind of, just bringing accusations over what was going on. And she said, all these women, they being ordained as bishops, and they being ordained as this and that and the third. And then this pastor said, well, it's too late. They in there now. Instead of agreeing, they agreeing with what was said, what my wife was trying to point out. They vehemently went against it and supported that madness, and wonder why we as a people, we can't get over the hump. I was looking at this video where this young lady said, why are we so hated? And she went through a series of things that we have gone through, and she pointed all those things out, the chattel slavery and Jim Crow and all the hangings and the Ku Klux Klan and all that nonsense. And she said, why are we hated? We hate it because we refuse to get on code with the Most High. We understand that the Father is a Father of order. Just like what I was talking about when they got out of Egypt and they was in the wilderness, in the Mount of Sinai, the Father gave his laws. Then next thing you know, he was building a tabernacle. Then when you get to Numbers, when you get to Leviticus, the Father continued to give the law to put things in order. Then after he got all that established and put in place, then he said in Numbers, all the men that's able to go forth to war, I want you to number them off and put them all in order and get things organized. That's who our Father is. What about Yeshua? Before he fed the thousands of people that's recorded in the book of Mark, the first thing he said was, have the people to sit down. Bring order to the crowd. I just can't have everybody just running roughshod and running amok. He wanted everything to be properly placed in its rightful place so that the Spirit can flow and everybody can get their feel. But what we are dealing with today, people are listening to the doctrines and the dogma of the people of darkness. And they are winning right now because they are wiser, because we refuse to come and eat off the table of the Most High to gain the knowledge on how to deal with this chaos, to give us strength to get in order. And so it's nothing but deception. It's nothing but the whole act of pulling the wool over the women's eyes to put them over the men, just like what Satan said. Satan told Eve, he said that you will be like the gods and you would know good and evil. In Genesis, the 3rd chapter, verse 1, it says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which Yahweh, the high power, had made. And he said unto the woman, he didn't say to Adam, he said unto the woman. He didn't say to the man, he said to the woman, yea, hath Yahweh said, ye shall not eat of every tree in the garden. He said that day you eat thereof, you shall surely die. When you talk about eating, you're talking about taking in. You talk about eating, you're talking about ingestion of food. And the food breaks down and metabolized into energy. And it enables the individual that ate to think and speak and do things. So what you must understand, that whatever you eat from, when it talks about don't eat from the knowledge of tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it was telling don't get information from that. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, it was full of knowledge, it was full of awareness, but it was awareness of good and evil. Various theories and comprehensions was in the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And when you take it in, when you begin to listen and let it digest through your ear gate and get into your faculties, your conscious and your imagination and your reasoning and your conscience, and it began to metabolize within your faculties, then you will receive energy that is contrary to the Most High, because it's good. It was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which was confusion, which the Father is not the author of. I hope that somebody understand what I'm saying. When you take things in, when you take ideas in, see, when the serpent spoke to Eve, it spoke to Eve and it gave Eve a sept. A sept is an idea. Sept means to take in. When you watch football, you see somebody intercept. When you get a certain idea, they call it a concept. In the scriptures, they call it precept. These are ideas that you take in. That's a form of eating. It's not just her biting of fruit. When you look at the scripture where it say the fruit of the spirit, love, joy, peace, these are actions. The fruit, what you take in from the spirit, it will produce. It will metabolize, and the energy that will be produced, love, joy, peace, long suffering, from the spirit. But this is what we must understand. When Eve took of the fruit, when she took of that knowledge, when she took of that awareness that the tree of knowledge of good and evil presented unto her, her eyes became open. It was a result where her eyes didn't become open until Adam ate of it. When Adam ate of it, then their eyes became open. So this is what we must understand. The people of darkness, let me get back to my subject. The people of darkness, they understand, and as long as we keep them in confusion, let's put the movie out there because they love movies. We don't need to write anything because they're not going to read it. We're going to put it in a movie, and we're going to bring so much confusion that they're going to be arguing one another, because the women going to desire to continue to be unruly and out of the order of the Most High and doing their own thing. And let me tell you something, there is not one independent woman breathing oxygen on this earth, because that's against the Father's order. If the woman is not under her husband, then she under another man. If she not under another man, she under a deity. There is not one woman that's operating independently. That's against the Father's creation. This is why the Father urged us through Paul to let everything be done decently and in order. But then you have the people of darkness that's wiser, that all they got to do is just put a movie out there and we go crazy. Keep falling for the same banana in the tailpipe every time. Now in this movie, you got black women maneuvering and strategizing and flipping men, big burly strong men, slamming them, beating them up, and women just cheering it on. Don't understand this is a trick of the enemy. Oh my goodness. You must understand. Because they need us. They need us to be in disarray. They need us to be going into the day. They need our submission in order to function, in order for them to thrive. So we must understand, people talking about that's a true story. Only thing that's true about the Dahomey tribe was it was a Dahomey tribe. Everything else was a fabrication, and it was done by design to keep the Hebrew Israelite, the people of light, dumbed down and deceived. Have you noticed they don't do that to all these other ethnicities, all these other race of people? They don't do all this stuff they do to us. There must be something to it. And so what they want us to do is to continue to be vulnerable because it's an advantage to them. And so the next movie coming out is the Black Panther. And they got 3 women up front. They're going to wear this out. And let me tell you something. The Father got something planned. The Father is going to allow disaster to hit so fervently. He's going to allow disaster to hit that people are going to come running into his order, getting on code. That's what's going to happen because things are too out of hand. The women talking about they free. They talking about the benefit of empowering women, and they just, on my job, they reigning supreme. They everywhere. And the poor man, the Hebrew Israelite man, is just trying to survive because women rule over them. But guess what? The Father is still in control. And so this message is not to bash any woman on what they desire to do. It's really just to encourage all of us to quit being so gullible and so unsophisticated and being hooked, lined, and sinkered and fish hooked into this society's trap to keep things just in disarray. So that's all I wanted to say. This was just a message to kind of counter the plans and strategies that they are putting forth with this evil, wicked movie, major contradiction, Woman King. Y'all should see the deception. Like I said, if they were so powerful, they should have. If they were that powerful like they were, they should have tore the French and the English and the British. They should have took care of them. One lady, she had a broken bone, and the girl put her arm back in place. And there's another thing, they just defying. They want us to totally defy the laws of the Most High. Paul told Timothy she shall be saved in childbearing. That's an insult now. As simple as childbearing, women don't want to do that no more. Then you got men talking about they pregnant. Just a ball of confusion, which the Father is not the author of. And so this was more like a assessment of the movie. And I just entitled it, The People of Darkness Are Wiser Than the People of Light, because they continue to finesse us with a whole bunch of rebellion, continue to get us to rebel against the Father, and they laughing about it. Look at these idiots. They look at us on social media. Look at them. They just sit there and they at each other's throat. giving each other high fives and fist bumps. Yeah, we succeeded in keeping these people in disarray, keeping these people in mass confusion. We need these people to continue to go in the opposite direction in which the Father ordered for them to go. As soon as they get on code, our judgment will start. And I'm just here to let people know, be aware, all this stuff, don't fall for these tricks and these cunning tools that the enemy is using against us. And I know this message, it was kind of unorthodox. It really was from the hip. But I hope that someone received edification from it. Let's get on code with the Most High. He's going to bring us back into unity with him. That's the ultimate goal. And we must understand that the Father's order is coming down the pike. Out of confusion, he's going to bring order. Just like when the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of the Most High moved upon the face of the water. In utter confusion, the Father brought order when he said, "Let there be light." But right now, they are wiser than us because they're so cunning and we so gullible. But that word, "let there be light," it comes from the power of the Most High. And once light shine, things begin to get in order. And it's going to happen again. So I'm here to tell you, open your eyes, understand what's going on, understand why they putting so much effort and money into this medium that we call movies, motion pictures. They doing it because they want us to stay in disarray. But the Father is going to use it to bring order out of all this chaos that we are experiencing now. That's it. I'm your brother, Servant RD, Ramont. Shalom.